Welcome to Repum Group's Item 24, where we take you a step beyond the standard FDD. We asked ourselves, why stop at 23 items when some of the most important insights live beyond the page? Here we're breaking down the inner workings of franchising and sharing real-life strategies and stories that drive the industry forward. Welcome back to Item 24. I am very excited to officially say that we have our very first guest on Item 24. And who better than one of the top franchise consultants in the country? She has placed almost 1,000 people into a small business in her career. She is a individual that I love, been around her for a long time, been friends with her for over a decade now. And so Kim Daly is the guest that we have today, one of the best franchise consultants I know. And Kim, I have a little story to tell about you and mine and yours history and how far it goes back. So over a decade ago, when I was just starting out in franchise development, people were starting to hear about me and I started to make some placements, and you called me and you said, "Who the hell are you?" And I said, "What do you mean?" You go, "I've been hearing about you and I just keep hearing how good you are." And you said, "I think I need to start sending you some great candidates and I'm going to trust you." And I didn't know what that meant at that point in time, on like how big of a name Kim Daly was to get her great candidates sent over. But it stuck with me to this day. And in all seriousness, I'm honored to have you on Item 24. And Kim, if you could just take a minute or so to go over your background, because you have such a great background as a franchise consultant.
That's an awesome story, Nick, and I'm so blessed to be your first guest. Thank you so much. That's great. And listen, you lived up to that reputation, so there you go. So, yep, as you said, I've been a franchise consultant for over 20 years of my life. I am one of the top consultants in the country, which just means that I am blessed to help a lot of people say yes to the dream to own a franchise, and a lot more people to figure out franchising is not the right thing for them, or at least not right now. So yeah, that's what I do. I'm also a mindset and manifestation coach, which means after creating all of these business owners and watching some people go on and be really successful and a lot of other people go on and kind of be average or struggle, all the while over here living my own wild and crazy dreams through franchising, I started to study personal development to really understand what really drives success in business ownership. It's not what most people think. And so now I'm a mindset and manifestation coach that has a whole coaching practice to help people in their mindset, because how we think, how we talk, and how we act has a greater impact on the success of our business than the franchise fee that you're paying for that strategy. I'm not downplaying the strategy. The strategy is very important, but there's more that goes into success in a franchise than buying strategy.
Yeah, that's very important. Well, again, you have an amazing background, and obviously people trust you because, again, 1,000 people, which is just a crazy statistic to think about, have trusted your judgment on what good business ownership looks for them in franchising. So I'm excited to go over a little bit more about that today and talk about people's journey through, looking at franchise opportunities and coming through as a candidate. What does that mean? We all know that franchisees or candidates coming through are nervous, right? There's a lot of fear that goes into it. There's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of what ifs and what to expect. They don't know because a lot of them haven't been through the journey before. So I want to go through a couple questions with you specifically on your advice if someone's looking to buy a franchise, what that means for them and how you help them get through that journey. So I have a couple questions here. And the first one, I'm going to pull it up here, is what are the top 3 things someone should look at for when vetting a franchise?
The top 3 things. So I think the first thing is the caliber of the franchisor, right? This is about being in business for yourself, but not by yourself. So who are these people that you're building a partnership with? Do you like them? Do you trust them? What is their experience? Not just in the industry that they're in, but also in franchise development and operations, because these are 2 totally different businesses that would be run by, in theory, the same leadership team. So I think that always has to be the first thing that a candidate has to look at. Who am I going into business with? The second thing would probably be, what does the family of franchisees they've already built have to say about the leadership? Are they happy? So how do those franchisees validate their story? Not so much are they making the kind of money they thought, because that's ultimately on them as franchisees, but more, do they feel well trained? Do they feel well supported? Are they enjoying the experience of growth as a business owner under the mentorship of this particular leadership of the franchise? And then I think the third thing that you should look at when vetting a franchise, there's so many. It's hard to put it into three, right? Nick. I mean, I could say the financial health of the franchise, right? Because you don't want your franchisor to go bankrupt in the process of like building a franchise, and it's very expensive to lift a brand. So you need like good corporate stores or private equity money, right? So but usually private equity comes later. So I guess it depends on where that franchise is in its growth, maybe how important the financial health of the franchisor is. Oh gosh, there's so many things. You said three, that's three. I'll stop talking.
I mean, those are good. I always find it very hard for someone to ask me that same question. And I think that what you hit on is right, though. It really comes down to, though, if you're gonna pick a franchisor, you got to make sure that you feel like you hit on the culture with them and you feel like you align with them. You have to feel like their vision of leadership is there for you, right? And then obviously financially, like there's some great ideas and great franchisors out there that I've seen over the years that don't make it because they don't have the runway they need to get there, because as an emerging franchisor, it takes time to become profitable as a franchisor, because you've got to open your locations, you got to go through that process, and frankly have no royalties or very little royalties to support the franchisor in the first 3 years or 4 years of operation. So I think all those things are important, good ones, Kim. I think you hit the nail on the head if you had to pick three, right?
I could give you so many more, but okay, we'll leave it at that.
Okay, so the next question is, how can someone tell if a brand is a good fit for them personally?
Ooh, well, this is my sweet spot. So you don't have to figure that out. You're going to come to Kim Daly and I'm going to help you do this. Okay. So I would say first and foremost, Nick, that a business is a vehicle driving outcomes, personal, professional, and financial outcomes. So if you're a candidate thinking about exploring a franchise, you're not investing in a hobby.
Yeah.
I know, don't cry. You're not investing in, oh, I love the taste of the ice cream, so I have to own this, right? You don't need to fill a gap in your community, right? Some people think, well, my community doesn't have that, so if I put that there, it's naturally going to be successful. Okay, so these are all myths and misconceptions that when you work with Kim Daly, I'm going to bust all the way through those, and I'm going to help you align to the vision of your future. So hear me. A franchise is a vehicle that's going to drive you personally, professionally, and financially to a new place. So the way that you find the right franchise is by getting clear and specific about what you want out of this business as an investment. And then allow me, with my 23 years of relationship knowledge and experience, to align the right 3 to 5 options to you. And then you're going to vet them, and I'm going to teach you how, the questions, and how to move beyond your own limitations, your preconceived notions, which we all have. I'm not judging. I'm just going to help point it out so we can maneuver around them, so that in about 1 to 2 months, you can whittle those 3 to 5 down to the one that feels like the best fit for you and that journey that you want to take.
Makes so much sense. And it is so true, though, about people's misconceptions coming in. I always use this example, not that this is a bad franchise, it's actually a great one. And it's from your home area, Kim, back up in New England, Dunkin' Donuts, big franchise, everyone knows it. And how many people come to you and say, I want to own a McDonald's or I want to own a Dunkin' Donuts, and they don't know what that really means. They just look at it and see, oh, there's lines out the door, and I want to print money like Dunkin' Donuts does, or they think it does, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a good operator, and it doesn't necessarily mean you can afford it, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to align with the vision of what that brand is. And you're 100% right in that it's a vehicle to help achieve your goals personally. And there's so many franchises out there that can help people achieve that, but the passion play, or I'm going to print money play, or whatever those situations may be in their head, are typically not the reasons to buy a franchise.
Correct. We just lighten it up, let go of the attachment to what the business does, focus on who you're doing business with, because that's the advantage of franchisepreneurship over entrepreneurship, and then focus on what this investment can do for you when you align your skills to the role that you play and the systems and support that they have. And when you find that, you're going to realize there's so many ways to skin this cat, and it's not necessarily going to be the business that you like woke up coming to Kim Daly thinking you were going to invest in. It could be something that totally knocks you off your rocker and you're like, I can't even believe I'm going to tell you this, Kim Daly, but I absolutely love this, whatever, window washing company or power washing company, right? So, but it's not always the unsexy thing. Sometimes people do connect to the gym that they thought they were going to invest in. So it really, again, it comes down to aligning your vision to the business and then to the people that you're in business with.
Yep. I totally agree with you on that. All right. So one more question I have for you around this. Okay, this is an important one. I think a big one. What red flag should potential franchisees watch for in a franchisor?
Okay, so red flag makes me, there's definitely red flags. Okay, but let me just say this. As a mindset coach, what I'm going to tell you first, Nick, is whatever you believe to be true, you will end up making true. So I get a little nervous about, hey, we're looking for that red flag. But to answer your question on a surface level, there obviously are things to watch out for in a franchise. So when you get that FDD, if it's loaded with litigation, right, there's a lot of failures in the item 20, right? Like, okay, these are red flags, right? Because maybe this franchisor is not living up to what they're promising their franchisees. So people are suing and they're failing. Well, obviously that's a huge red flag. Another red flag could be that when you go to the validation with the current franchise owners, again, I'm less concerned if people aren't making the kind of money they thought they were going to make, because here's the thing, we don't really know what they thought and we don't know how they're showing up for their moment, so it's irrelevant to you. But what I do care about is if they don't feel well supported, if they don't feel well trained, if they, knowing what they know now, they would go back and do it all differently because of how things happened when they were promised something different. That's what I would call a red flag, because it may be that the franchisor just hasn't dotted enough I's and crossed enough T's and smoothed out the trail enough for you. But sometimes that's what makes the journey exciting for the right investor, right? Every investor is going to be a little bit different based on their ability to risk, right? And their ability to trust in themselves. So some people want every I dotted and every T crossed and track record of history. And that's what makes their nervous system calm. And that's how they can go on and become a successful owner. While other people would die on the vine with all the rules of a big company where everything is figured out. They want that emerging atmosphere where they can have 2 cents in how the actual final system is going to work. So it really comes back to the investor that you are, what's going to be a red flag for you or not a red flag. But the first one I mentioned, failures, litigation, a culture of unhappy franchisees, those are probably the biggest red flags. Another red flag could be, Nick, also trying to squeeze yourself into a business because you think this business is going to be successful in your market. So what I mean by that is, let's say that you are not a salesperson, right? But you love a particular business that really requires a salesman's role, either by you or someone you hire. So if you don't have the natural tendency for that primary skill, again, you may not have to do it, but you need to be comfortable hiring and training and leading other people and then working through the objections in that process. So if that's not your forte, I think you're trying to fit your round peg into a square hole. I'd rather you invest in a business that perfectly aligns to who you are as a business owner and how you want to grow, right? And then because that's where you're going to get more excited and you're going to be more passionate about it versus the business maybe feeling like an albatross around your neck that you just can't overcome. So don't try to squeeze yourself into a brand because you think the brand name is going to be what saves you or makes you successful in a market. That's so untrue. Owners make brands and locations successful. Brands and locations do not make owners successful.
Oh my God, that is so accurate. And two things that you said that I think are so accurate is the personality profile of an individual. There are definitely people that are risk adverse, and they definitely need a different type of franchisor that they're going to be comfortable with. And then you have the risk takers who, to your point, do not want to be in a box and be bored with a brand that has, just as an example, 500 locations open, and there's very little room to do anything other than follow the system because it's been proven out 500 times already, right? And that's so important. And then the non-salesperson, someone that's a chemical engineer likely isn't going to go out there and crush it in sales. Not that they couldn't, but that's probably not their strength. And vice versa. A salesperson isn't going to go into something that has engineering involvement and do probably a great job with it. And so it's finding your alignment there and not worrying so much about the industry, and to your point, going into a community and feel like you're going to crush it and it's absolutely needed there. I use this term all the time too. I think when people go through a process, there's two things for the candidate side I look at for a risk, which is the ruling of an iron fist by the franchisor. I think that term holds true because when you see a lot of litigation in a FDD, it's typically because the franchisor was ruling that way, right? They were trying to govern it to the point where they're not ruling it by relationship and helping franchisors be good partners and helping them through the tough times, because we all know those are going to be there. They were literally just saying, no, this is how it is, and if you don't follow it, you can move on. And that doesn't work well, right? You have to be a relationship-based franchisor, in my opinion, in order to be truly successful as a franchisor. And that's really the key. And so ultimately, those are the things that I think are important. Kim, you've said some great things today. I really appreciate you coming on our show and being the first guest, as I said. You're a great friend. You were a mentor to me early on in my career. As I said, those stories stick near and dear to my heart from an early age when I came into this industry. And so again, I really appreciate you joining us today.
It's really interesting because I'm like half your age, so I'm so happy to be your mentor, Nick.
That's right. I don't know how that happened, Kim.
I don't either.